Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much. I mean, another day, another set of charges, the fourth set of charges against Donald Trump. He's denied all so far. He's now facing a total of 78 criminal charges. But the really crucial thing here is these are not federal charges. These are state charges, including the racketeering charge. And that would mean that he faced between 5 and 20 years, if he were convicted of that racketeering charge, and no possibility of a presidential pardon. Are these the most serious charges to date?
I don't think they're the most serious in terms of if I were to rank them by likelihood of conviction. I'd say it's probably ranked number 2 after the documents case. The January 6th federal case, that was kind of a farce. And then, of course, the Alvin Bragg indictment in New York was a complete joke. So this one, has a little bit of that taint. You have a very aggressive district attorney. She sounded a lot like Alvin Bragg, in terms of the get Trump attitude. And I think that's the way she's been. She campaigned that way in 2020. She's an elected Democrat. And it just, it's just another occasion of, deja vu all over again. Very bad news for the Biden family on Friday. So the following weekday, there's an indictment. This is the 4th time it's happened. Every one of these indictments has come on the heels of very bad news for the Biden influence peddling cartel. And so there might be some merit to the case, but it just starts to look a little bit unseemly when all of these indictments are coming after. There
has been a lot of timelines. Whenever there's bad news about Hunter, there are congressional investigations. And my goodness me, there is a lot that needs to be looked into there. I think there's some seriously big concerns about corruption in the Biden family and about millions being made that shouldn't have been made. I've got a lot of questions to ask about that. The reality is, you talked about, this is a Democratic official. She's elected. The American justice system is very political. We've got, Supreme Court judges are appointed for their political views. Donald Trump, when he was president, happily, openly, proudly, publicly stated he was appointing people who were political partisans and getting rid of people who were not. So it's a bit rich for him to say, oh, this is terrible, these are politically motivated. Well, that's what he was quite happy to do himself. I mean, hoist by his own petard, surely.
I mean, look, the justices that he appointed were, all members of the Federalist Society and were considered constitutionalists, whether and obviously that means they're conservative by nature, but I don't think they politicize things. And in fact, all the judges he appointed, not just the Supreme Court, but the other courts, would argue that we judge by the Constitution and by the law. We don't want to litigate from the bench. And I think that's what's important is not litigating. So let the voters decide. And if you think there's a political reason to remove an elected official, that's why we have impeachment. But the courts and the justice system should not be weaponized to make decisions that should be. They certainly should
not. I mean, we can put up a graphic. Those watching, Donald Trump has put on his own Truth Social website, his social media account. He's put a statement out some hours ago. So the witch hunt continues. 19 people he's written the word indicated, but I think it meant indicted tonight, including the former president of the United States, me, by an out of control and very corrupt district attorney who campaigned and raised money on "I will get Trump." And what about those indictment documents put out today, long before the grand jury even voted, and then quickly withdrawn? These are some documents went online and have been taken down since. Donald Trump continues, sounds rigged to me. Why didn't they indict 2.5 years ago? Because they wanted to do it right in the middle of my political campaign. Witch hunt. Now, my argument on this would be that, he certainly has charges to face. He's pleaded not guilty to everything so far. No doubt will plead not guilty to these charges. It should be heard by a court of law. The jury should decide that is the correct way of doing things. But these could be politically motivated in terms of the timing, but there was also political motivation in these charges not being brought a few years ago when this information, a lot of it was already known, wasn't there? Which was that don't stir up the hornet's nest, the country needs a period of calm. Anyone else who was accused of a lot of these charges would have been charged long before now. So could it be politically motivated in not charging him and politically motivated in charging him?
And it's clear. I mean, if you look at the Merrick Garland case, he didn't assign a special counsel to the January 6th situation until Trump declared his nomination, or that he was going to run for president back in late 22. So, that was clear that Merrick Garland had the same information for 2 years and waited. So, there's a lot of really kind of funny business on this. And I should point out Robert Jackson, who was Merrick Garland's predecessor. He was the Attorney General. Said in 1940, the most dangerous power of the prosecutor is that he will pick the people to get rather than the cases that need to be prosecuted. And, this is long before Trump and long before we heard the term "get Trump." And it's funny that it came from an attorney general.
But again, he was happy to show, lock her up about Hillary Clinton. I think everyone involved is appalling, I have to say.
Yeah,
in terms of these being state charges rather than federal charges, he would not, and no president would be able to pardon in the event that if he were convicted of these charges. There would be no possibility of presidential pardon. He could face between 5 and 20 years on these charges. That does make it a bigger risk for him, doesn't it?
It does. There's no doubt about it. And you could say the same for the Alvin Bragg case in New York. Yeah. But again, that's such a hoax of a case that there's no way there'll be a conviction there. I'm not even sure it'll get to trial. Okay. This one might have some more legs on it. But again, I don't think they'll convict and send him to jail. But then again, who can predict any of these things? What they're trying to do in both the Jan 6 case from the federal indictment as well as the Georgia case is they're trying to craft an argument that he broke some laws that there's no precedent of those laws, being broken before by anybody else. So it's still going to be a stretch. I think the document case is the best one they have.
We shall see what happens. Greg Swenson, Chair of Republicans Overseas UK, thank you so much for that.